Welcome to For Book Lovers Only Live Radio, where we discuss amazing books written by talented authors. For Book Lovers Only Live Radio is a proud member of the Village Connector Media Network. If you love books, we have a home for you. Now time for your host and chief book lover, Rob Brown.
Hello, book lovers and book fans. My name is Rob Brown, your internet radio host and chief book lover, and this is For Book Lovers Only Live Radio, where if you love books, we have a home for you. Hope all is well as we are approaching the end of the summer, and happy September to you. Our guest author in the studio today is a former teacher and school administrator, and since school has either just begun in your district or is beginning soon, she couldn't have stopped by at a better time. We welcome Shauna F. King for Book Lovers Only Live Radio. Shauna, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
But first, I wanted to thank our most recent guest, Valerie Irene, for stopping by our studios recently to discuss her book, Raffi and the Lunchbox Mystery. It's available right now at www.forbookloversonly.com. That's www.forbookloversonly.com. Now, if you haven't joined our Book Lovers Club as of yet, please do so by visiting our website. It's absolutely free, and we will be keeping you up to date about new authors, books, book signings, and book fairs in your area, in addition to special book buying opportunities and other perks that are not available to the general public. So please join today. Now, before we dive into our interview with Shauna, I wanted to take a few moments to keep you posted about some upcoming book fairs that could be coming to your area depending where you are in the country, and also to let you know about a captivating new book and talented author who's joined the For Book Lovers Only family. Her book is Before You Now. I'll talk about that in just a moment. But first, the fourth edition of the Brooklyn Antiquarian Book Fair will be Friday, September 8th from 5 to 9 p.m., then Saturday, September 9th from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m., and then Sunday, September 10th from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. That will be at the Brooklyn Expo Center at 79 Franklin Street in Greenpoint. They're also featuring a new Works on Paper gallery with prints, drawings, and photography. Ticket prices range from $5 to $25 depending on how much of the book fair you'd like to participate in. For more information, please visit www.brooklynbookfair.com. That's www.brooklynbookfair.com. And there are some great book fairs coast to coast. The first one is in Brooklyn. The second one is in Sacramento. The Sacramento Antiquarian Book Fair is Saturday, September 9th. From 9:45 a.m. until 5 p.m. It is at the Scottish Rite Temple at 6151 H Street in Sacramento, California. Admission is $5, but parking is free. There are thousands of rare collectibles on site, books, postcards, and maps. For more information, please visit www.sacbookfair.com. That's www.sacbookfair.com. So it looks like some really exciting book fairs that are going on all around the country. So if you're in the Brooklyn area or in the Sacramento area, you might want to stop by. Now I'd like to introduce to you a new author who we are excited, who has just joined the For Book Lovers Only family, and to chat a bit about her book, Encouraging Words for the Mind, Spirit, and Soul. This book is by Philadelphia-based author Brenda Sawyer. She holds a second master's degree in elementary education from Cabrini College. She's a retired school teacher, and she is the founder and director of the GWWI, which is an acronym for Girls Walking with Integrity, Empowering for Destiny. It is a Christian mentoring ministry for young ladies between the ages of 8 and 18. And I love this book because it is a compilation of inspirational devotions. They are written to encourage the reader to reflect on the goodness and the peace of God. Now, the unique thing about this book, the reason why I love this book so much, is that each page is basically a scriptural lesson in and of itself. Each page is titled with a photo, her thoughts, and the corresponding scripture. I'm going to show you a little bit. As you can see, at the top is the title of the page. Then she has a photo. Then under the photo, she has her thoughts and the scripture that talks about her thoughts, or her thoughts that talk about the scripture. I'm going to read a couple of pages, and this book is just absolutely amazing. I love this book. The first one is, Let God Be Your Strength. I know that we all like to think of ourselves as being relatively strong, but when we feel tired and weak, we can lean on the Lord for all the strength that we need. God's grace is sufficient, and his strength is made perfect in our weakness. 2 Corinthians 12th chapter, 9th verse. Dear Lord Jesus, when we feel weak and tired, give us your joy and your strength to carry on. We know that your joy is our strength in times of weakness. Then he said unto them, Go your way, eat the fat, and drink the sweet, and send portions unto them for whom nothing is prepared. For this day is holy unto our Lord. Neither be ye sorry, for the joy of the Lord is your strength. Nehemiah 8th chapter, 10th verse. So as you can see, she gives her thoughts and then the corresponding scriptures with her thoughts. I'm going to read one more page so you can really get a flavor for how she has compiled this wonderful book. The title of this page is Our God is So Much Bigger Than That. We should never allow life's circumstances to make us feel so overwhelmed that we forget to look at God and who he is in our lives. God is the author and the finisher of our faith and knows the path that we must take. It does not matter how many things we go through as long as we know that God has already mapped out the plan for our lives. Jeremiah 29th chapter, 11th verse. The Apostle Paul tells us in Philippians 4th chapter, 6th verse that we don't have to worry or be anxious for anything, but that we should pray with thanksgiving and make our requests known unto God. So the next time we start feeling overwhelmed, take a deep breath, pray with thanksgiving, and surrender it all over to God because he's so much bigger than that. Great is our Lord and of great power. His understanding is infinite. Psalms 147th chapter and the 6th verse. This book is just so all-encompassing. It was inspired by her Facebook group, the GWWI that I mentioned earlier, Girls Walking with Integrity, Empowering for Destiny. Now, this book is ideal for Bible studies, particularly for small groups. A lot of the larger churches will have the larger corporate worship in their churches, and they'll break out into small groups. This book is really ideal for those type of small groups. I wish I had this book when I was doing my small group at my church. It's also a wonderful resource to empower and encourage those who are hurting and want a stronger relationship with the Lord. It's available for purchase on www.forbookloversonly.com. Now, when you go to the website, click on Shop in the top right-hand corner. Then under Product Search, type in the word Encouraging, and then click the search button, and Brenda's book will come right up. There's also a wonderfully made and inspiring book trailer on the books page. Now, this book is available in Spanish on Amazon and will be released on CD soon as well. Again, the book is Encouraging Words for the Mind, Spirit, and Soul. Pick up your copy today. Many thanks to Brenda Sawyer for writing this wonderful book. Thank you so much. We look forward to telling more people about it, and we look forward to your second book because if you did such a great job the first time around, we can't wait to see your sophomore effort. So thank you, Brenda. Now time for our in-studio guest. She is an author who seeks to share her experiences and knowledge as a teacher and parent with other teachers and parents. Her message is simple. Adults must work together to support children. Her writing comes from her sincere desire to help adults be the best for their kids. Her name is Shauna F. King, author of School Smart. It's more than just reading and writing. Shauna, thank you so much for stopping by for Book Lovers Only Live Radio.
Thanks, Rob.
Well, we are excited about this book. Obviously, it's time sensitive, and the reason why I say that is because as schools are starting up, as kids are going back to school, this book is of particular importance. But I want to start first by talking about your background as an educator and administrator. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I started in education about 24 years ago now, and I started as a first-year teacher, and I've taught middle school, and I taught high school for a bit. And I remember, even though I come from a long line of educators, my mother's an educator, my grandmother's an educator, I wasn't quite sure that that's what I wanted to do. But when I got the opportunity to work with children and I really connected with them, and one thing that most teachers can admit to is there's never a dull day, never a dull moment when you're working with kids, and I absolutely fell in love with it. So I was a classroom teacher for years. I then moved in more of a central office type of position, working with teachers in schools to help create positive environments, what we call school culture and school climate, dealing with discipline issues and things like that. I then also was a principal in a private school, and I got the opportunity to serve as the lead as a principal and kind of run the school and see what that was like. And now for the last 5 years, I've served more in a consulting role. I do still teach graduate school through LaSalle University, but now I get an opportunity across the state of Maryland in Anne Arundel County, Baltimore City, and Dorchester County to consult with schools and kind of help them make schools the best and safe place for kids. So I really have a passion for working with kids and helping adults be their best for kids.
That's amazing, and that's a lot. I want to kind of unpackage that over the next couple of minutes.
Okay.
So when you started working as a teacher, and I don't really know a lot about, I have a tremendous respect for teachers and the teaching profession. If there's ever a profession that is overworked and underpaid, it's teachers. I mean, I cannot stress that enough. Now, when you started being a teacher, were you able to pick the grade, like I want to teach first grade or second grade? How does that work?
Well, absolutely. Usually most teachers that you talk to will at least tell you, look, I like the little ones, or I like the big ones, or I like the ones kind of in the middle. Mm-hmm. And for me, I kind of like the ones in the middle. And so you do typically try to, if you're a content area teacher, that you say, okay, I want to go ahead and teach the older kids. If you're one who likes the younger children, then you tend towards elementary. And it's funny because, most teachers love teaching, but if you ask a first grade teacher if she'd ever teach 11th grade, she'd say no. If you ask an 11th grade teacher if they would ever teach first or second grade, they usually tell you no. So absolutely, we all go into the profession, but we usually are geared towards still an age bracket that we're most comfortable with. For me, I love the middle school when they were going through puberty, when they're going through changes and things like that. They still have the mind of a child, even though they're able to understand you at an older level.
Okay, so you've taught middle school,
Mm-hmm.
and you've taught elementary school.
I taught high school first.
You taught high school
I taught
first.
high school
Okay.
first, and then I taught middle school. My elementary experience came as a principal. I was a principal
okay.
of an elementary school, and that was my first experience with that.
Okay, so as you're making this transition, what prompted you to transition from being a teacher to actually being an administrator?
Well, actually, it wasn't really my choice. I enjoy being in the classroom and working with kids and kind of having my own domain. But I had a principal who said to me at that particular time, Shauna, I think you can do a little bit more. I would love to have you do some more things outside of the classroom. And I really thought he was just joking with me. But the next year, he had placed me in a position where I was doing what we called peer mediation and working with kids in case they had some type of disputes or disagreements and things. So I got the opportunity to work outside of the classroom. And then I've always done kind of training and teaching. As I learn things, I love to share that with others. So I've always done what we call in education professional development. I've always done teacher trainings and workshops. And through that, I kind of got captured to do some other things. And so I got invited to work in the central office in our student services department of my district and do some more training and teaching and things like that. So usually whatever job I had, I was passionate about the work that I was doing. But sometimes there was also a supervisor who said, hey, Shauna, I think you can take your skills and can we use them on a larger level? So I'm grateful to all those people who have been able to kind of pour into my life and kind of see some other opportunities for me.
And when the opportunity came up for you to be, you said, a principal of an elementary school,
Mm-hmm.
and you hadn't taught elementary school at that time, right? Were you kind of like taken aback, like, well, wait a minute, I've taught like high school, middle school, and you want me to be a principal of an elementary school? Like, how'd you make that transition? Like, how'd that make you feel initially?
I actually was honored because I was actually on the board of the school, and I was a board member, and I had one who was advising for the school at that particular time. And it was a private school. And so when our principal decided to take another opportunity and we were getting ready to look for principals and everybody at the table all then looked at me, I was like, wait a minute. I wasn't quite sure that that's what I wanted to do. But actually, after careful prayer, I thought about it and had conversation with my husband and said, this is an opportunity for me where I've been sharing with other people kind of best practices and things to do that I can actually go and do it myself. So I was excited to be able to accept that position and to actually serve as principal for an elementary school. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
Okay, now did they just kind of throw you in there? Was there like a specialized training period before you became a principal, or just like?
No. Yeah, it was.
They just kind of gave you the keys to the elementary school and be like, have at it.
Here you go. And now, granted, that was a specific situation where I was in the non-public world. In the non-public world, at a Christian school, it was the point where, yes, I did go right in. Typically, you would have schools where there's training, there's principal mentoring and those types of things. But I did come trained. I had already had my master's degree. I had already had my leadership certifications. I just had not actually used them yet in that school-based experience. But I was happy to be able to try that out and to be a principal, and that they trusted me with that venture. Yes, but it's a big job. It's a big job.
I can imagine. I mean, I know that the teachers have a ton of work to do, and I know like over the weekends, and I just have cursory knowledge, so stop me if I'm wrong. But I know during the week you all have a ton of work to do, working with the kids. But over the weekend, you do your lesson plans for the next week. Is that how it kind of works?
Absolutely. And it's funny because a lot of people have this misconception that, oh, teachers, great job. You're only working for maybe 6.5 hours a day. You've got the whole summers off. But any quality teacher will let you know the workload continues throughout the evenings when you're grading papers or having to responding to parents and thinking about proactively what you're going to do the next day. And then Sunday evening is a special evening when you're preparing for Monday morning. And so there's a level of excitement. But again, quality teachers, we're on stage. It's like, what do you want to do to make sure your students are engaged and ready to learn every single day, and also be prepared to change it up, because we've all had those lessons that we thought were going to go a certain way, and then we realize, okay, this is just not working. And being able to switch it up right there on the moment, on the spot. So it's a lot of cognitive work that teachers have to do, and even not being in charge of what might happen. You have students who are absent, you have emergency meetings, things that just come and pop up. It is constantly something that's always going on. So teaching is not for the faint of heart. It is not. But those of us who love the work can't imagine doing anything else.
Well, I can imagine. It's just you're just wearing so many different hats. I mean, you're a teacher, psychologist, and you're just doing so many different things all at the same time. That's why, like I say, I have a tremendous amount of respect for teachers in the teaching profession. So I tip my hat to you. So I want to get into your book. Now, you have expertise at teaching, at being an administrator, and now you have a book. Like, how did the book come to be?
Well, when I first started teaching, I didn't have any children. I was single, and it was me as teacher, and I kind of felt like the expert. I said, okay, I know how to work with children, and then I would interact with parents, and I would say naive things like, oh, if I was a parent, this is what I would do. Why can't these parents do this? Why can't these parents do this? And honestly, I had not always a positive mindset about what parents should or what I thought they should do to prepare kids for school. And then I had my own kids. And it's wonderful when you're not sitting in the seat how you can tell someone what they should do. And so then once I had my own children, I realized some of the challenges of being a parent. And so now the book really came from taking those two worlds that I've had as teacher and as parent, and being able to say, what are the commonalities? What are the things that we're really trying to do? Because I think teachers can really be more supportive of parents, and parents can be more supportive of teachers once we realize we have the same goal. So my mindset coming into the book as an author comes from the years of knowing kind of how my mindset has grown. Right. Originally, having certain things and certain thoughts about what should be done, so now saying, okay, let me take a more cursory view now that I see both worlds. What's really the best thing for us to do for kids?
Okay, so who is the book written for?
So the book is written for teachers who are teaching K through 12. So, whether it's the preschool or kindergarten all the way through high school, or parents who have school-aged children. If your children are in school, whether it's first grade or 11th grade, the book is for you. Because while there are going to be some different things that you're going to do, the nuggets are pretty much the same. Realizing that at the beginning of the school year, there are things that we need to do to get kids ready, whether they're third grade or 10th grade, and then still going throughout the year. How do we handle conferences? How do we deal with homework and grading and things like that? Of course, it's going to be on different levels depending on the age of their children. But then also for teachers, it helps teachers realize there are things that we can do that are consistent with parents throughout the year. We want the same thing. And understanding that the key is focusing on the child. Not focusing on each other, but focusing on the child. What do we want our children to do? How can we communicate best with each other so that we are continuing on the same page? So if you're a parent or a teacher of children, kindergarten through 12, the book is for you.
It sounds like you've put a lot of thought and effort into the book, obviously. Now, when you were writing the book, were you kind of compiling, I guess, notes along the years and thinking like, in a couple of years I'm going to write a book? Or was it just like, hey, I need to write a book. Let me kind of just think about all the things that have happened to me over the past 10, 15 years. Like, how did you come up with the content for the book?
Yeah, the content came from going through a school year.
Okay.
So some of it was, I remember what it was like for the as a teacher going through the school year. And since I work in schools every day, even as a consultant now, I see some of the struggles and some of the conversations that teachers go through, when we're first getting started in the school year, and the excitement and the anticipation. And so at the very beginning of the year, I remember they're talking to some teachers who were just talking about their apprehension about a new school year and all the demands and things that they were going to have to do, who's going to be in my class, what's going to happen this year. And then as a parent tapping into my anxiety, because my children were starting school, I'm like, oh my goodness, who's their teacher going to be? What's going to happen? What's going to be on the bus? All those types of things. And then I remember I was at church one day and I was talking to a young lady, and I was asking her about how she was feeling. And she said, I'm worried about if there's going to be anyone for me to sit next to on the first day of school in the lunchroom. And I remember that moment because it reminded me that although we're coming from different areas, that level of apprehension and anxiety about back to school is consistent, whether you're the teacher, you're the parent, or you're the child. And I don't think we appreciate that sometimes, that all of us are going even into this back to school thing with a little bit of anxiety. And if we can connect and appreciate that, it would really make a difference. So I started from that point and said, how can I keep this going? What is some advice I would give to each one of those particular people, parent, teacher, student, of those times? And so what the book does is it does start with back to school time, but then I say, what about those same feelings? What do you need to do that as you go into the end of the first quarter or going into Christmas break and dealing with springtime when everybody's just ready to get out of school?
Right.
And then the last chapter talks about finishing strong. So I the way the book is laid out, I have conversations with both parents, teachers, and students about some of the similar feelings that they have.
I see. Very interesting. And why would someone want to read School Smart if, let's say, obviously teachers, students, parents, obviously you have that kind of trifecta. Do school administrators, would they get something out of reading the book too, so that maybe they can instruct their teachers about the lessons that the book teaches? Yeah,
absolutely. I believe anyone who is involved with school and with children would benefit, because the information is not so specialized that it's only for an administrator or only for a principal or only even for a parent. The nuggets are very specific to the point where figure out exactly what you need to do. So if we talk about the first week of school, figure out your priorities. What are your main priorities for that first week of school? Let's list those out and let's worry about that right now. Let's not worry about what's going to happen for the whole year just yet, or let's just figure out how to get through that first week. And I think that's something that a parent could take that advice, teacher could take that advice, kid, administrator, anybody. And I think it really helps to ground you into what is the whole purpose of the work of what we're doing with kids each year. There's a lot of demands, we know, but if we realize, and the last chapter of the book talks about giving children roots so that they can grow wings. If we realize that that's really what we're doing, we're teaching them, yes, we're teaching them reading, yes, we're teaching them writing, but we're also teaching responsibility. We're teaching self-esteem. Right. We're teaching integrity. Those are the things that if we realize those are the big things we want our kids to come out with, yes, we want them to read and write and count too. But we want them to have those real skills that they can take into the world. I think it helps to reduce our stress level a little bit when it comes to I've got to get them into 5 million activities. I've got to get them to do all these types of things. What are those big picture things that can help focus the work that we do every day?
And out of the book, what would you say is your favorite chapter of the book?
That's funny you asked that, because the last chapter is actually my favorite chapter. And after I finished it, I said, you know what, Shauna, I wish this was the first chapter, because the last chapter really talks, as I said, about how the goal of teaching and parenting is to get kids to be able to get along without the teacher or the parent. If you really think about it, that's what we're doing. We are really trying to impart in children the skills, the requisite skills, the executive function skills that we're calling them, that they need to succeed in the world. So it's almost like if we do this right, they're able to fly. They're able to do what they need to do. And so even though it's the last chapter of the book, part of me said, should I have put this in the beginning to say, look, you are launching kids into the school year right now, and they're getting ready to go on a journey, but realize what's really most important. So what's not most important in the beginning is, who's going to be in their class, and the book bags, and the color of this, and the tennis shoes, and all those types of things, and who's on your class list. What's the big message of what we're doing in education in the first place? And it's to give children roots so that they can develop their wings.
Is there any way you can read a little bit of the last chapter? Because it just, now I wish I could just stop the broadcast and read some myself. So share a little bit of the last chapter with us.
Absolutely. So I'm going to. So the last one is actually in the conclusion portion of this. It says it couldn't be truer that when it comes to education is the key to helping our children make smarter and more informed decisions. School is more than just reading and writing. School helps us shape their minds, teach them about accountability, and show them how to solve complex problems. The more time and care that we, their parents and their teachers, invest into their education, the more well-rounded, more well-prepared our children will become. Education is the springboard into the world, giving our children the requisite skills that it takes to navigate the world, make decisions about their paths, and ultimately succeed in what they do. The Bible actually gives us in Proverbs 22, verse 6, the best example of what effective parenting and teaching should look like. Train up a child in the way that he should go, and then when he is old, he will not depart from it.
Well, I can see that's why that's your favorite chapter. So obviously, this book has so much, informative gems for teachers, for students, for parents starting at the beginning of the year. What happens if somebody purchases this book in the middle of the school year? How do they get value out of it?
Okay, so the beginning of the book does talk about the back-to-school blues and getting started for the first week. So it is kind of designed for beginning of the year. But if you pick this up and it's November, there is a chapter here that talks about lessons on discipline. So chapter 4 is lessons on discipline. Now, every parent and every teacher will let you know there's going to be a time and place for discipline. Mm-hmm. And discipline, and when I used to think about it, and I talk about discipline a lot, people typically think discipline means correction. It sometimes it means punishment, but discipline means teaching. And if we think about the Greek word disciple, we're talking a teacher. And so when we're disciplining our children, it's what are we teaching them? And so the chapter 4 actually reminds us there are going to be some times where kids don't do what we ask them to do. That's developmentally appropriate. They're kids. They are here for us to teach them. What are those ways that we are modeling for children what we want for them? So, for example, years ago we used to say things like, do what I say, not as I do.
Right.
Well, and I'm not going to tell you I haven't heard. My parents were wonderful. I understand that statement. But at the same time, there are times where we want kids to do what we say and as we do. Because if I want my children to be respectful, I want them to be able to look at me and see someone who's respectful of others. If I want them to be generous, I want them to look at me that same way. Patience. All those, if I'm cursing out someone as someone is cutting me off on the road, but I'm telling my children to be patient and respectful,
it's a mixed signal.
It really is a mixed signal. So one of the things I like to say is one of the best gifts that we can give our kids is the gift of a good example. And if we can give kids a really good example from us, from parents and from teachers, that really does a lot of teaching that they need to know. So lessons on discipline is in the book. There's chapters on stress. So if you've never had any stress, you don't need to read that chapter.
I like to meet that person. I would love to meet that person.
Then that chapter is not for you. But stress is something that impacts everybody. So understanding grades, understanding how to best approach the homework, even if you don't understand the homework. And Rob, what's interesting is now school is getting to the point, and I have a master's degree plus, but there's sometimes when my children bring home some homework, and I'm like, I'm not quite sure about this. So the book talks about what are some strategies that as parents we can do to help our children if they're struggling with homework. What's the language that we can use? Because we don't want our children discouraged when things are hard, because it's easy to say, if a child comes to you and says, oh, this is a really hard assignment, and you go to them and say, no, it's easy. When we think about it, is that really a motivating statement?
Right.
If I tell you it's hard, and you come back and me and say, Shauna, it's really easy, I actually don't feel better.
Yeah, you feel discouraged, actually.
I feel discouraged. So even though we mean well, I think about what are the things that as parents we can do. And I can look at this assignment and say, you know what? This does look a little tricky. Let's see what we can do to work this out. I can encourage my child to say, remember last time you thought the fractions were really tricky, but now you're an ace at those. So I can build up their confidence in attaching the homework, even if I don't quite understand it. There are things that I don't want teachers, parents to feel like they're stuck. There are things that we can do to support our kids throughout that. So the book has a lot of nuggets that can help, whether it's November, whether it's April, or even there's a chapter that talks about getting through June.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, this book has everything. Well, Shauna, thank you so much for stopping by. I want to make sure that our viewers, our listeners, everybody that's participating in today's broadcast is able to get your contact information. Your Twitter is at Shauna F. King. Your email address is shaunafking@gmail.com. And your website is www.schoolsmartbook.com. So they can go there and get more information. And of course, the book is available at forbookloversonly.com. That's www.forbookloversonly.com. Please pick up a copy if you're a teacher, if you're a student, if you're a principal, if you're a parent, if you're thinking about being any of the aforementioned four. You need to get this book, especially now at the beginning of the school year. This is going to help you out for the remainder of the year. So, Shauna, thank you so much. It was Shauna F. King. The book is School Smart. It's not just about reading and writing. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Rob.
We're out of time, but be sure to join us for our next episode where we will be interviewing Ron Craig of the United Kingdom, author of the book The Little Witch and the Lost Boy. We'll give him a call to see how well his book is doing, and the follow-up book, The Little Witch, the follow-up book to The Little Witch. My name is Rob Brown, your internet radio host and chief book lover, and this is For Book Lovers Only Live Radio, where if you love books, we have a home for you. Take care. I'll see you in 7 days.